Imagine having the smartest brain on the planet, right? Like capable of analyzing mountains of data in seconds. But every single time you want to speak, you have to ask Apple and Google for a hall pass.
Yeah, it's a massive trap. And it's exactly the trap OpenAI is stuck in right now.
Welcome to the deep dive. I mean, we're so glad you're joining us today. Our mission is to explore this massive, kind of under the radar tectonic shift in consumer tech.
Right, a shift that is going to fundamentally change how you interact with everything.
Exactly. So today we're pulling from a really detailed analysis by the AI Revolution channel. They synthesized all these industry notes from analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, some wild supply chain leaks, and these really revealing shifts in internal corporate charters.
The focus here is why OpenAI, the software giant behind ChatGPT, is suddenly trying to build hardware.
Not just any hardware, but the ultimate piece of hardware. A phone that could, quite frankly, make the iPhone obsolete. Okay, let's unpack this because the irony here is just glaring.
Oh, completely.
OpenAI has arguably the most capable AI in the world.
Oh.
But to actually reach you, the user, they don't even control the pipeline.
Right, it is the ultimate distribution bottleneck. And the stakes here, they go far beyond just, launching a shiny new gadget to fight for shelf space at Best Buy.
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
It's a battle for controlling the underlying context of a user's life. Like, think about the devices around you right now. A smart speaker captures the context of your living room.
Glasses capture what you're looking at.
Exactly. Headphones capture the audio of your day. But the smartphone, it's the single device with the absolute highest information density in your entire life.
It has everything.
Right. Real-time location, your calendar, payment habits, your biometric health data, private conversations. For an AI agent to truly function, to actually anticipate what you need before you even ask that dense centralized context is the entire point.
Which brings up the fundamental question, right? Why does a software company want to manufacture physical glass and metal? Like, why isn't a really good ChatGPT app enough?
You'd think it would be.
Right. If I have the app on my iPhone, I have the AI. So why go through the absolute nightmare of building a proprietary phone from scratch?
Well, the barrier there is what the industry calls the sandbox problem. Even the most powerful AI assistant, if it's running as an app on an iPhone, is still trapped inside Apple's rigid rules.
Because Apple loves its walled gardens.
Exactly. Apple's operating system uses sandboxing, really strict app permissions, and these massive privacy walls to keep apps totally isolated from one another.
So they can't talk to each other.
Right. So if you want your AI to execute a complex, multi-step task, let's say, checking your calendar for a conflict, comparing flight options on Safari, ordering a coffee, and authorizing an Apple Pay transaction, it just turns into this incredibly messy, broken chain.
Because it's hitting walls at every step.
Yeah. The AI might perfectly understand what you want, but the phone's operating system still treats it like it's just another isolated app sitting on a shelf, totally blind to everything else happening on the device.
I mean, right now, using an AI on an iPhone is like having a world-class personal chef, but locking them in the pantry and forcing them to slip ingredients under the door one by one.
That is a perfect way to put it.
To actually cook a meal, they need the keys to the entire kitchen. They can't just be an app begging for permissions, They need to be the operating system.
And building on that pantry metaphor, to get those keys to the kitchen, OpenAI has to rethink hardware from the processor level up. According to Ming-Chi Kuo's survey, OpenAI isn't just shopping for standard parts.
What are they doing instead?
They are working with MediaTek and Qualcomm on mobile phone processors explicitly designed around agentic behavior. Yep. They aren't just slapping a text chatbot onto a regular Snapdragon chip.
Because it's an entirely different computing load, right?
Yeah.
We are talking about the balance between cloud AI and local edge-side AI. And we should probably unpack what that actually means for you listening. Edge-side just means the processing happens locally on the physical edge of the network, meaning your phone, rather than sending all that data back to some massive server farm.
And that local processing is vital for two massive reasons: latency and battery life.
Right.
If your phone's processor has to constantly understand your context, meaning it's always listening, always anticipating, it cannot stream every single audio byte or location ping to the cloud.
The lag would be awful.
The lag would be terrible, and it would completely destroy your battery life in like 2 hours. So power management and memory hierarchy become the most critical specs.
Oh, I see.
The lighter, constant observation tasks, those edge-side models, run locally on the device. Then only the really heavy reasoning gets bumped up to the cloud.
Which is a totally different economic model. Kuhn made a really fascinating comparison to Google and MediaTek's TPU project. He noted that the revenue from a single massive high-end server AI chip equals the revenue from like 30 to 40 AI agent mobile phone processors.
Yeah, the volume difference is insane.
Right. So while server chips have huge margins, the phone market brings this massive world-changing scale. OpenAI is reportedly targeting the global high-end mobile phone market, which moves about 300 to 400 million units every single year.
Capturing even a tiny fraction of that alters the entire trajectory of human-computer interaction. And Sam Altman recently laid out a UX vision that frames this perfectly.
The Times Square analogy, right?
Yes. He contrasted smartphones today with Times Square. When you unlock your phone right now, it is just a bombardment, notifications, red badges, fragmented attention everywhere.
You're constantly searching for an app, tapping it, copying, pasting, switching menus. It's loud, it's chaotic.
Exactly. Altman says OpenAI wants to build something more like a lakeside cottage, a serene place where you can close the door and actually focus.
That vision completely flips the logic of the modern smartphone. Like, instead of you navigating a grid of apps to do tasks, you just state your intent.
Yeah, the AI sits at the very center of the device and invisibly routes your request through whatever tools it needs.
So the apps are still there, technically?
They might exist in the background, sure, but you stop thinking of them as separate physical destinations you have to manually visit. The agent just becomes the interface.
But I mean, building a peaceful lakeside cottage requires going to all-out war with Apple. If you want to beat Apple at hardware, you have to steal their playbook and their people.
Which is exactly what they're doing.
Here's where it gets really interesting. OpenAI hasn't just been brainstorming, they've been aggressively poaching. They've built a hardware division of around 200 people.
Wow.
Yeah, and they are collaborating with Lovefrom, which is the design studio led by Jony Ive, the legendary former Apple design chief.
The Apple DNA injected into this project is just staggering. They brought in Tang Tan, a 25-year Apple veteran who literally shaped the physical design of the iPhone and the Apple Watch.
And Evans Hankey, right.
Yes, the person who actually took over Apple's industrial design team after Jony Ive left.
It's wild. The sources indicate OpenAI poached over 20 top-tier hardware experts from Apple last year alone.
It's a total talent drain.
It reached a point where Apple allegedly canceled an annual closed-door executive meeting in China, purely out of paranoia that more of their executives were going to get recruited.
You know you're making an impact when Cupertino is that spooked. And what's fascinating here is that the aggressive strategy extends straight into the manufacturing supply chain.
Right, the actual building of the things.
Exactly. Take a look at Luxshare Precision. For years, Luxshare has been fighting to surpass Hon Hai, better known as Foxconn, in Apple's iPhone assembly hierarchy.
But they've always been kind of stuck as a secondary player, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
But now, Luxshare has reportedly secured the exclusive system co-design and manufacturing contract for the OpenAI phone. Mass production is targeted for 2028, with final ship specs locked in by late 2026.
So for Luxshare, this is their golden ticket.
Absolutely. It's a chance to be the primary architect and manufacturer of the next generation of AI devices, rather than just building components for Apple's machine.
And Gotek is also in talks to provide speaker modules, right?
Yep. These are the exact companies with decades of deep experience building iPhones, AirPods, and HomePods.
And we really need to look at the broader picture here because the source material reveals this is not just a phone. OpenAI is building an entire physical ecosystem to capture context.
They want sensors everywhere.
Yeah. The leaks show a pipeline starting with a $200 to $300 smart speaker expected by early 2027. Then there are AI headphones, codenamed Dime or Sweet Pea.
I love those code names.
Same. They feature this metal cobblestone design behind the ear, and they're powered by a 2-nanometer chip. And let's just pause on that spec for a second. A 2-nanometer chip means they are packing an absurd amount of computing power into an incredibly tiny space.
Which is crucial because it allows for heavy AI processing without immediately draining a tiny headphone battery.
Exactly. Then there are smart glasses slated for 2028 to rival Meta's Ray-Bans, plus prototypes for a smart lamp and an AI pen.
And the purpose of that diverse hardware lineup goes right back to the idea of context. A phone just sits in your pocket. But a smart lamp sits in your living room, visually observing the physical context of your home.
A pen digitizes your handwriting in real time.
Glasses see what you see. Headphones hear what you hear. They're essentially creating a distributed sensor network, so the AI has a seamless, unbroken understanding of your whole environment.
Okay, I have to push back here, though.
Sure.
Because it is one thing to poach some brilliant designers and sign a contract with Luxshare to build a web of gadgets. But the tech graveyard is literally full of massive software companies that tried to build phones and failed miserably.
That is very true.
Look at the Amazon Fire Phone. Look at the Microsoft Zune. Hardware is a logistical nightmare. Apple has spent decades perfecting their global supply chain, refining their chip architecture, building user trust. Is OpenAI really equipped to handle the brutal reality of global consumer electronics?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, honestly. Hardware is famously unforgiving. If you ship software with a bug, you just push an update over Wi-Fi. No big deal.
But hardware.
If you ship 1 million physical phones with a battery flaw, you have a catastrophic recall that can bankrupt an entire division. Apple's true moat isn't just sleek design, it's the operational excellence of delivering millions of flawless physical products worldwide.
Right, so OpenAI is taking on a monumental risk by trying to build the phone, the OS, the processor architecture, and the ecosystem from the ground up.
It is the slowest, most capital-intensive route possible.
But OpenAI's ground-up approach takes years, and the market isn't waiting around. In fact, over in China, they are proving exactly what happens when you duct tape an AI agent onto a current smartphone today.
The China parallel is so vital for understanding the urgency here. While OpenAI is meticulously building this native ecosystem, Chinese companies are launching a much faster, far more radical version of the AI phone.
Right, the Dubao phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Late last year, ByteDance and ZTE launched the first generation Dubao phone, which is basically a modified Nubia M1 153.
And the market reaction to this device was completely unhinged. The engineering prototype sold out instantly.
Instant.
The retail price was roughly $480, but demand was so feverish that resale prices on secondary markets skyrocketed to around $5,000.
That's nuts.
ZTE's stock hit its daily trading limit. People are just desperate for an AI that actually does things for them. But how did ByteDance and ZTE pull this off so fast without spending years building a brand new OS?
They deployed a brilliant but incredibly aggressive workaround. Normally, for an AI to interact with an app, it needs the app developer to create specific back-end APIs.
Right. You can think of APIs as the hidden digital language that apps use to talk to each other in the dark behind the scenes.
But waiting for every app to build those connections takes years.
Yeah.
So the Dubao AI operates as a GUI agent. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface.
So instead of talking to the app in the dark, it just literally looks at the screen. It's like having an invisible ghost sitting on your shoulder, looking at your phone screen, and rapidly tapping the glass with invisible fingers.
That is exactly what it's doing. The AI model visually reads the screen and simulates manual actions. It taps, swipes, and types, operating the phone just like a human user would.
Wow.
This means the AI can instantly compare prices across 5 different shopping apps, organize your files, draft a polished WeChat reply and hit send, or navigate a travel app to book a flight.
Because it doesn't need the apps to grant it special back-end permission.
Right. It simply hijacks the user interface. The advantage there is incredible speed to market.
But the price of that speed is total chaos.
Oh, completely. This raises an important question about security. Because this GUI agent totally bypasses normal app boundaries and permission models, the major platforms panicked.
Naturally.
WeChat, Alipay, Taobao, and various major banking apps reportedly started blocking the Dubao phone almost immediately.
And you really can't blame the banks. If an app cannot tell the difference between you, the human, authorizing a money transfer, and an AI ghost simulating a tap to authorize that transfer, that is a terrifying vulnerability.
It shatters the fundamental trust model of the smartphone. The entire security infrastructure of mobile banking relies on verifying human intent.
Right.
If an agent can punch right through those safeguards by faking human taps, the financial ecosystem simply cannot function.
Yeah. Synthesizing this for the listener, the Dubao phone, which already has a version 2.0 in development and has massive brands like Vivo and Honor looking to jump on board, proves there is immense consumer demand for this technology.
Huge demand.
But more importantly, the chaos of the Dubao phone proves exactly why OpenAI must build their own operating system and hardware. You cannot just hack an AI into Android and let a ghost tap the screen without breaking the security of the entire digital economy.
You really can't.
If the agent is going to be the core of the device, it has to be native to the architecture, securely authorized at the processor level.
Yeah, you essentially have 2 choices.
Yeah.
You either try to forcefully transform existing phones from the inside, dealing with endless app blocking and security breaches,
Hmm?
or you take the brutal path OpenAI is taking.
Building a new device from scratch.
Exactly, where the AI agent is integrated safely and seamlessly from day one.
And this grounding in the messy, practical reality of hardware supply chains, battery life, and banking app security, it is forcing a profound philosophical shift inside OpenAI itself.
They are definitely having to move away from those utopian lab theories and grapple with the gritty, real world.
Look at the bizarre contradiction in Sam Altman's recent public behavior. On one hand, he posts these theories that AGI, artificial general intelligence, will arrive by 2030, collapse the current economy, and make human work obsolete.
Right.
But simultaneously, he posts that he is switching to polyphasic, sleeping in short, scattered bursts, just so he can work more hours. Why? Because AI tools like GPT 5.5 and Codex, which is an AI system that writes software code for you, have made him so hyper-efficient that he doesn't want to miss a minute of work.
The irony there is just rich. The executive championing the end of work is working extreme hours because his own technology makes building products so thrilling.
It's hilarious.
But this contradiction also reflects a broader industry pushback against OpenAI's traditional, almost religious framing of AGI.
Right. The peers in their own industry are pushing back. You have the creator of Mobot, Peter Steinberger, going on the Y Combinator podcast to argue that the industry needs to focus on specialized intelligence tools that do specific jobs incredibly well.
Not some generalized godlike intelligence.
Exactly.
Anthropic's president, Danielle Amodei, has openly called the entire AGI concept outdated. And the CEO of Google DeepMind recently argued that AGI cannot be achieved through text prediction alone. It requires what he calls world models.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning an AI needs a deep, grounded understanding of physical reality, gravity, and human interaction. You can't learn that just by reading the internet. You learn that by having sensors in the physical world.
Which brings us right back to the glasses, the lamps, and the phones. So what does this all mean for OpenAI's culture?
It's a massive pivot.
Yeah, the source material highlights a smoking gun that shows their internal mindset has shifted to match this grounded reality. It's their newly updated 2026 operating principles.
If you look at their foundational documents side by side, the shift in corporate identity is just massive. In their original 2018 charter, the term AGI was mentioned 12 times.
Wow.
It was the sole focal point of the company's existence. In the updated 2026 version, the term appears only twice.
That is a huge drop.
The old charter was essentially a waiting room, built around the hope of one magical future AGI breakthrough.
And they quietly deleted one of their most famous idealistic promises. Back in 2018, OpenAI promised that if another safety-focused organization got close to AGI before them, OpenAI would stop competing and actively help them cross the finish line.
I remember that.
That commitment to stop competing is completely gone in the 2026 version.
Because the new version is entirely focused on a concept called iterative deployment.
Iterative deployment.
Right. The new principles state that society needs to grapple with each successive level of AI capability in real time. It argues that the world has to adapt step by step as stronger systems are introduced into the wild.
That makes a lot of sense.
They even explicitly acknowledge that they may need to trade off some empowerment for more resilience and safety.
Connecting the dots here. Building a physical phone and shifting the company charter to iterative deployment are expressions of the exact same philosophy.
They really are.
OpenAI is no longer sitting in a lab waiting for a magical AGI moment to drop on humanity all at once. They are building consumer products, phones, speakers, glasses to weave AI into the physical world right now, step by step, and they intend to compete fiercely in the commercial hardware market.
It represents the maturation of a research lab into a true tech conglomerate. They have realized that integrating AI into human life requires controlling the hardware, mastering the physical supply chain, navigating banking security.
They're abandoning the utopian idea of a sudden software singularity in favor of shipping tangible products that people put in their pockets every day.
And that brings us to the synthesis of our journey today. We've seen how the frustrating limitations of being a mere app trapped in Apple's sandbox forced OpenAI to pivot hard into physical hardware.
Yeah, leveraging those seasoned Apple veterans and hungry suppliers like Luxshare.
Exactly. Building that serene lakeside cottage ecosystem, moving away from the chaotic, notification-heavy smartphones of today. We looked at the wild security pitfalls of the Dubao phone in China, proving why a ground-up hardware approach is absolutely necessary to protect the digital trust model.
And finally, we saw how the grueling reality of building consumer tech has fundamentally rewritten OpenAI's own company charter.
Shifting them from AGI daydreamers to grounded, highly competitive product builders. It is a remarkable bet the company pivot. They are attempting to orchestrate a hardware revolution purely to secure the future of their software.
It really is incredible. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final, lingering question to ponder as this technology rapidly approaches. We are moving incredibly fast from an era of apps to an era of agents.
Very fast.
Your new AI phone isn't just going to show you flight options on a screen. It is going to literally navigate the airline site, input your credit card details, and securely book the flight on your behalf.
Right.
But if an autonomous agent is operating with that level of financial freedom, who is legally and financially responsible if the AI makes a massive mistake? If a hallucination causes your phone to drain your bank account by booking the wrong non-refundable trip, are you to blame for trusting it, or is the phone manufacturer liable? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and stay endlessly curious.